The arrival that shook the galaxy, the fabric of space itself, seemed to tear apart as the UES Prometheus burst through the hyperspace barrier. The massive human dreadnought materialized in normal space with a thunderous roar that sent shockwaves rippling across the void. At 4 kilometers in length and bristling with weapons that could crack planets, the Prometheus was humanity's crowning achievement in military engineering. Captain Alina Vasquez stood on the bridge, her dark eyes scanning the tactical displays as her ship settled into formation near the designated meeting coordinates. The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency around her. Commander Marcus Chen, her first officer, monitored the sensor readings with growing concern. Lieutenant Sarah Kim tracked the positions of dozens of alien vessels scattered throughout the sector. Chief Engineer Roberto Santos kept a watchful eye on the ship's fusion reactors, which were operating at barely 10% capacity, yet still outshining most stars in their energy output. The Prometheus had been built for one purpose: to ensure that humanity would never again face extinction from an external threat. 3 months earlier, Earth had received the most important message in human history. The transmission had come from the depths of space, carrying the mathematical proofs and universal constants that proved its alien origin. The message was simple and direct. We are the Galactic Confederation. Your species has been observed. If you wish to join our alliance of civilized worlds, send a representative vessel to these coordinates. We await your response. The location was a neutral zone, far from any inhabited system, where first contact protocols could be safely conducted. Earth's leaders had debated for weeks about how to respond. Some advocated sending a small scientific vessel filled with researchers and diplomats. Others suggested a medium-sized exploration ship to demonstrate human technology without appearing aggressive. But Admiral Patricia Reynolds, the head of Earth's Stellar Defense Force, had different ideas. She understood that first impressions mattered, especially when dealing with unknown alien civilizations that might view humanity as either prey or competition. Captain Vasquez remembered the Admiral's words during the final briefing. We don't know what's waiting for us out there. These aliens have been traveling between stars for who knows how long. They've probably seen hundreds of species rise and fall. If we show up in a small ship, they might think we're weak. If we show up defenseless, they might decide to eliminate a potential threat before it grows stronger. But if we arrive in our finest warship, crewed by our best people, they'll know that humanity deserves respect. The Prometheus represented everything humanity had learned from centuries of warfare and decades of space exploration. Her hull was forged from metamaterial composites that could withstand direct hits from fusion warheads. Her shields could deflect energy beams that would vaporize lesser vessels. Her weapons systems included particle cannons that fired streams of antimatter, railguns that launched projectiles at relativistic speeds, and quantum torpedoes that could destabilize the atomic structure of enemy ships. More importantly, her crew of 3,000 represented the finest soldiers, scientists, engineers, and diplomats that Earth could provide. As the Prometheus took her position in the designated meeting zone, sensor arrays throughout the sector began registering readings that defied their programming. On the bridge of the Zephyrian research vessel Harmony, Dr. Kellogg stared at his displays in disbelief. The crystalline being's photosynthetic skin shifted from its normal blue-green to a deep purple that indicated extreme agitation. His 6 hands trembled as he recalibrated his sensors for the 3rd time, hoping the readings were somehow incorrect. This cannot be accurate, Dr. Kellogg whispered to his assistant, a young researcher named Vera. No single vessel can generate this much energy. The readings suggest their power output exceeds our entire home fleet combined. Vera, whose species communicated partially through color changes in their translucent skin, turned a shade of amber that indicated fear mixed with curiosity. "Doctor, I've checked our instruments repeatedly. The human ship is operating at what appears to be minimal power, yet it's still producing more energy than anything in our databases." Across the sector, similar scenes were playing out on dozens of alien vessels. The Confederation had assembled representatives from 43 different species for this historic first contact with the humans. Each delegation had brought their finest ships and most experienced diplomats. The Karathi had sent their newest exploration cruiser, equipped with the most advanced sensors in their fleet. The Mendari delegation traveled in a beautiful vessel that was more artwork than spaceship, its hull covered in intricate patterns that told the story of their species' evolution. The Vex Collective had dispatched a hive ship that housed over 10,000 individual Vex units, all sharing a collective consciousness that made them ideal negotiators. None of them had expected anything like the Prometheus. Ambassador G of the Karathi Empire felt his four hearts racing as he studied the tactical analysis of the human vessel. The Karathi were known throughout the galaxy as master shipbuilders, having designed some of the largest and most powerful vessels in Confederation space. But the human ship dwarfed even their greatest achievements. "How is this possible, JC?" asked his military advisor, General Krath. "Our intelligence suggested that the humans were a young species, barely capable of interstellar travel. This vessel represents technology that should take millennia to develop." General Krath, whose species had evolved from predatory hunters, felt his combat instincts triggered by the sight of the human ship. Every scale on his reptilian hide stood on end as he processed the tactical implications. "Ambassador, this vessel isn't just large, it's perfectly designed for warfare. Look at the armor thickness, the weapon placement, the shield generators. Whoever built this ship has fought wars across multiple star systems and learned from each battle. These humans are not the primitive species we expected." On the Confederation's mobile command station, Supreme Coordinator Vesh was receiving reports from every delegation in the sector. The ancient being had lived for over 800 years and had overseen first contact with 17 different species. She had never encountered anything like the current situation. Her cybernetic implants, which connected her directly to the station's data networks, were processing information faster than any biological brain could handle. Yet even with her enhanced capabilities, she struggled to understand what she was seeing. "Status report," Vesh commanded, her mechanical voice echoing through the command center. Her aide, a nervous Solani named Pip, consulted his holographic displays before responding. "Supreme Coordinator, we have 43 delegations, reporting extreme sensor readings from the human vessel. Energy output is approximately 847% higher than our largest dreadnought. Weapon signatures suggest armaments capable of planetary bombardment. Hull composition appears to be some form of exotic matter that our sensors cannot fully analyze." Vesh processed this information with growing concern. In her 8 centuries of life, she had seen species that were naturally aggressive, naturally peaceful, naturally curious, and naturally isolationist. But she had never encountered a species that built ships like the Prometheus for what was supposed to be a diplomatic mission. Either the humans were planning to conquer the galaxy, or they came from a universe so dangerous that building such vessels was considered normal. Captain Vasca stood at the center of her bridge, watching the alien vessels on her tactical display. Commander Chen approached her with the latest intelligence report. "Captain, we're detecting massive communication traffic between the alien ships." Dr. Amanda Foster in the linguistics department says her computers are identifying at least 30 different languages being used simultaneously. The translation programs are working overtime trying to decode everything. "What's the general tone of their communications?" Vasquez asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Chen glanced at his notes before responding. "Mostly variations of what have we gotten ourselves into, and should we call for reinforcements? It seems our appearance has caused quite a stir." Lieutenant Kim looked up from her sensor station. "Captain, I'm reading increased power signatures from several of the alien vessels. It looks like they're charging their weapon systems, though they're trying to be subtle about it." Vasquez nodded grimly. This was exactly what Admiral Reynolds had warned might happen. The aliens were scared, and scared beings often made poor decisions. "Open a general communication channel to all vessels in the sector," Vasquez ordered. The bridge communications officer, Lieutenant James Park, worked quickly to establish connections with every alien ship in the area. "Channel open, Captain. You're broadcasting to the entire Confederation fleet." Vasquez took a deep breath and stepped forward to address the assembled alien delegations. She knew that her next words might determine whether humanity's first contact with galactic civilization resulted in friendship or warfare. Her voice carried across space to dozens of alien "This is Captain Alina Vasquez of the Earth vessel Prometheus. We come in response to your invitation to join the Galactic Confederation. We bring greetings from all the people of Earth and hope for peaceful cooperation between our species and yours. We understand that our arrival may have been unexpected. Please know that we come with no hostile intentions toward any member of your alliance." The response was immediate and came from multiple sources simultaneously. Supreme Coordinator Vesh voice cut through the chatter first. "Captain Vasquez, your vessel appears to be equipped for military operations on a scale we have rarely encountered. Can you explain why Earth chose to send such a heavily armed ship to a diplomatic gathering?" Before Vasquez could respond, Ambassador Jex's voice joined the conversation. "The Karathi Empire demands an explanation for your vessel's capabilities. Your weapons systems alone could devastate entire star systems. Are we to understand that Earth possesses an entire fleet of such vessels?" Other voices began joining the communication, creating a cacophony of alien languages and concerns. The Mendari representative asked about human intentions in poetic verses that lost much of their meaning in translation. The Vex collective spoke in unified harmony, questioning whether humanity sought to dominate or cooperate. The Zephyrian delegation inquired about human evolutionary history and how such advanced military technology could develop so quickly. Vasquez raised her hand, though she knew the aliens couldn't see the gesture. "Please, allow me to explain. Earth chose to send the Prometheus not as a threat, but as a symbol of our capabilities and our commitment to any alliance we might join. We believe that true peace can only exist between equals. By demonstrating our ability to defend ourselves and our allies, we hope to earn your respect and trust." Commander Chen stepped beside his captain and added, "Our species has learned through hard experience that the universe can be a dangerous place. We build ships like the Prometheus not because we seek war, but because we refuse to be helpless. In the face of aggression, we offer our strength to the Confederation as a shield against those who would threaten peaceful civilizations." The communication channel fell silent for several long moments as the alien delegations processed this information. Finally, Dr. Kellix's voice emerged from the background chatter. Captain Vasquez, our sensors indicate that your vessel is operating at minimal power levels. Are we to understand that this is not your ship's full capability? Vasquez exchanged glances with her officers before responding. The Prometheus is currently running at approximately 8% of full operational capacity. We saw no need to strain our systems for routine travel. This revelation sent another wave of shocked communications rippling through the alien fleet. On the Corathi vessel, General Krath turned to Ambassador Jayax with obvious concern. If this is 8% of their capability, then at full power, this single ship could potentially engage our entire sector fleet. Ambassador, we may be dealing with a species that has evolved beyond our current understanding of warfare. Supreme Coordinator Vesh was reaching the same conclusion. Her cybernetic implants were running probability calculations at maximum speed, trying to determine whether humanity represented an opportunity or a threat to galactic stability. The numbers kept returning the same result: insufficient data for accurate assessment. She would need to learn much more about human history and motivations before making any final judgments. The first phase of humanity's introduction to galactic civilization was complete. The Prometheus hung in space like a sleeping giant, her crew preparing for whatever came next. Captain Vasquez knew that the real test was just beginning. The aliens had seen human technology and been impressed by human power. Now they would need to see human character and decide whether Earth deserved a place among the stars. As communication requests continued to flood in from the assembled alien fleet, Vasquez prepared to answer their questions and address their concerns. The fate of two species, human and alien alike, might well depend on how successfully she could explain why humanity built ships like the Prometheus and whether Earth could be trusted with the power they represented. The galaxy held its breath and waited for her answers. Asterisk understanding through strengther. Tension in space grew thicker as hours passed after the initial contact. Captain Vasquez had spent the time answering hundreds of questions from curious and concerned alien delegates, but she could sense that words alone would not be enough to convince the Galactic Confederation of humanity's peaceful intentions. The assembled alien fleet maintained their defensive positions, weapons systems charged but not openly targeted at the Prometheus. It was a delicate balance between caution and diplomacy that could shatter at any moment. Dr. Amanda Foster, the Prometheus's chief xenolinguist, had been working round the clock to establish better communication protocols with the various alien species. Her team had made remarkable progress in understanding the nuances of 43 different alien languages, but she was beginning to realize that the real communication barrier wasn't linguistic. It was philosophical. The aliens simply couldn't understand why any species would build something like the Prometheus unless they intended to use it for conquest. Captain, Dr. Foster reported from her linguistics station, "I've been analyzing the communication patterns between the alien vessels. There's a recurring theme in their discussions. They keep using words that translate roughly to predator species and apex threat. I think they're trying to categorize us within their existing understanding of galactic civilization, and we don't fit any of their known patterns." Commander Chen reviewed the tactical situation from his position beside the captain's chair. "Ma'am, I'm detecting subtle movements in the alien formation. Nothing overtly hostile, but they're definitely positioning themselves to respond quickly if this situation goes bad. The Corathi ships are taking up what looks like a battle formation, and the Vex Collective is clustering their vessels together in a defensive pattern. Before Vasquez could respond, the communication system activated with an incoming message from Supreme Coordinator Vesh. The ancient alien's mechanical voice carried undertones of authority that transcended species barriers. Captain Vasquez, the Confederation Council has been deliberating regarding your request to join our alliance. We have decided that additional information is required before we can proceed with formal negotiations. What kind of information, Supreme Coordinator? Vasquez replied, though she suspected she knew what was coming next. We need to understand the true capabilities of your vessel and, by extension, your species' military potential. We request that you demonstrate your ship's defensive systems so that we can properly assess the implications of admitting humanity to the Confederation. This is not an unreasonable request, given the unprecedented nature of your technology. Captain Vasquez felt the weight of the moment settling on her shoulders. She had hoped to avoid any display of the Prometheus's true power, knowing that it might escalate tensions rather than resolve them. But she also understood the alien perspective. They needed to know what they were dealing with before they could make informed decisions about humanity's place in galactic society. Very well, Supreme Coordinator. We will demonstrate our defensive capabilities. Please have all vessels maintain their current positions for safety reasons. Vasquez turned to her crew and began issuing orders. Commander Chen, bring us to yellow alert. Chief Santos, I need you to gradually increase reactor output to 20%. Lieutenant Kim, activate all defensive systems but keep weapons powered. Down. The effect on the alien sensors was immediate and dramatic. As the Prometheus's reactors began to spin up to higher output levels, energy readings across the sector spiked beyond anything the aliens had previously recorded. The ship's defensive shields became visible as shimmering barriers of pure energy that surrounded the massive hull. Point defense turrets emerged from hidden compartments, their targeting systems scanning for potential threats with mechanical precision. Dr. Kitlex, aboard the Zephyrian research vessel, watched his instruments with a mixture of scientific fascination and existential terror. The energy curve is exponential, he reported to his crew, his crystalline skin shifting through a spectrum of colors that indicated extreme emotional states. If this represents only 20% of their capability, then at full power, this vessel could generate more energy than our sun produces in a standard day. On the Karathi flagship, General Krath was conducting his own analysis of the human ship's capabilities. His predatory instincts, honed by millions of years of evolution, told him that the Prometheus was the most dangerous thing he had ever encountered. Yet there was something about the way the humans operated their vessel that suggested discipline and control rather than mindless aggression. Ambassador JC, he said quietly, I believe we may be witnessing the emergence of a new apex species. The question is whether they will be our protectors or our destroyers. Ambassador JCCs was studying the same data from a diplomatic perspective. His species had survived in galactic politics for thousands of years by accurately assessing the intentions and capabilities of other civilizations. The humans presented a puzzle unlike any he had encountered before. General, observe how they power up their systems. Everything is gradual, controlled, measured. They're not trying to intimidate us with raw power. They're trying to show us that they can be trusted, to use their power responsibly. Supreme Coordinator Vesh was processing information at a rate that would have overwhelmed most biological minds. Her cybernetic implants were comparing the human display to every military demonstration in Confederation history. The results were disturbing and impressive in equal measure. No single vessel in recorded galactic history had ever displayed this level of technological sophistication. combined with such obvious restraint, Captain Vasquez opened a general communication channel to address the assembled fleet. As you can see, the Prometheus is equipped with advanced defensive systems designed to protect both our ship and any allies we might be operating alongside. Our shields can deflect most forms of energy weapons, and our point defense network can intercept incoming projectiles or torpedoes. We demonstrate these capabilities not to threaten, but to show that we can contribute meaningfully to the security of any alliance we join. The response from the alien fleet was a cacophony of overlapping communications as different species tried to process what they were witnessing. The Mendari delegation began composing poetry about the beauty of the human ship's energy patterns. The Vex Collective was analyzing the tactical implications for fleet operations. The Zephyrians were trying to understand the underlying physics that made such power levels possible. But it was a new voice that cut through the chatter and changed everything. The communication came from the edge of the sensor net, where scouts had been monitoring the surrounding space for potential threats. This is Scout Captain Ilix of the Terranian Border Patrol. I am detecting multiple unidentified vessels approaching this sector at high velocity. Configuration and energy signatures match those of the Devari hegemony. Estimated time to contact, 47 minutes. The effect on the assembled alien fleet was electric. The Devari hegemony was a rogue state that had been expelled from the Confederation decades earlier for their aggressive, expansionist policies and their tendency to enslave or exterminate species they encountered. They had spent the intervening years building up their military forces and looking for opportunities to strike back at their former allies. Supreme Coordinator Vesh's voice carried new urgency as she addressed the fleet. All vessels are to assume defensive positions immediately. The Devari have been monitoring our communications and have chosen to attack while we are gathered in one location. This is a violation of the Neutral Zone Treaty and an act of war against the Confederation. Captain Vasquez felt the familiar calm that settled over her during combat situations. This was what the Prometheus had been built for, and this was why Admiral Reynolds had insisted on sending humanity's finest warship to the diplomatic meeting. Commander Chen, bring us to full combat readiness. All hands to battle stations. Chief Santos, I need maximum reactor output. Lieutenant Kim, weapons free but hold fire until my command. The transformation of the Prometheus from diplomatic vessel to instrument of war was breathtaking to behold. The ship's hull seemed to come alive as armor plating shifted and reinforced. Weapons ports opened to reveal the massive cannons within, and the entire vessel began to emit an energy signature that dwarfed everything else in the sector. The aliens who had been worried about human intentions suddenly found themselves grateful for human capabilities. Commander Chen was coordinating with the alien fleet commanders, trying to establish a unified defensive strategy. Captain, the Karathi are offering to form up on our starboard flank. The Vex Collective wants to coordinate their point defense with our systems. The problem is that most of these ships were never designed for this kind of combat. They're exploration vessels and diplomatic transports, not warships. Then we'll have to protect them, Vasquez replied without hesitation. Signal the fleet. The Prometheus will take point position. We'll absorb the initial Devari assault and give the diplomatic vessels time to withdraw to safe distance. Coordinate with their military ships to establish overlapping fields of fire. Dr. Forster had been monitoring Devari communications during their approach, and what she discovered made the situation even more serious. Captain, I've been analyzing their transmissions. This isn't just a raid or a harassment mission. The The Davari are planning to capture or destroy every ship in this sector, including the Confederation leadership. They see this as an opportunity to cripple galactic diplomacy and establish themselves as the dominant power. The Davari fleet burst out of hyperspace with the fury of a natural disaster. 12 heavy cruisers and twice that many smaller vessels formed a battle line that had been designed to overwhelm the lightly armed diplomatic vessels. But they had not expected to find the Prometheus waiting for them. The lead Davari commander, Admiral Crix, stared at his tactical displays in confusion as his sensors tried to process the readings from the human ship. "What is that thing?" Crix demanded of his tactical officer. "Those energy signatures are impossible. No single vessel can generate that much power." His officer, a seasoned warrior who had fought in dozens of battles, could only shake his head in bewilderment. "Admiral, whatever it is, it's targeting our entire fleet simultaneously. I've never seen targeting systems that sophisticated." Captain Vasquez opened a channel to the Davari fleet, her voice carrying the authority that came from commanding the most powerful warship in the galaxy. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth vessel Prometheus. You are in violation of neutral zone treaties and are threatening peaceful diplomatic proceedings. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Admiral Crix's response was predictably aggressive. "I don't know what backwater world you crawled out of, human, but you're about to learn why the Davari hegemony is feared across the galaxy. All ships, open fire. Destroy everything in this sector." The Davari fleet unleashed a coordinated barrage that would have vaporized any conventional force. Energy beams, missile salvos, and particle streams converged on the diplomatic vessels with lethal precision, but they never reached their targets. The Prometheus moved with impossible grace for something so massive, intercepting the incoming fire with her shields and point defense systems. Energy beams that could have cracked planets were absorbed harmlessly by the human ship's missiles that could have destroyed cities were picked off by defensive turrets with casual efficiency. But Captain Vasquez was not content to simply defend. The Prometheus's weapons systems came online with devastating effect. Particle cannons fired streams of antimatter that punched through Davari shields like they were made of paper. Railguns launched projectiles at relativistic speeds that struck with the force of nuclear weapons. Quantum torpedoes disrupted the molecular structure of enemy vessels, causing them to simply cease to exist. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. When it was over, the Davari fleet had been completely destroyed, with the Prometheus suffering no damage whatsoever. The diplomatic vessels that had been cowering behind the human ship emerged to survey the battlefield. Their crews struggling to comprehend what they had witnessed. Supreme Coordinator Vesh was the first to break the stunned silence that followed. "The battle, Captain Vasquez. On behalf of the Galactic Confederation, I thank you for your intervention. Without your ship's protection, this day would have ended in tragedy for all our peoples." Ambassador JCC added his voice to the chorus of gratitude. "The Karathi Empire pledges our friendship to humanity. You have proven yourselves to be worthy allies and protectors of galactic peace." Similar declarations came from every delegation. In the fleet, as the aliens realized that humanity's military might was matched by their moral character, Captain Vasquez felt a weight lifting from her shoulders as she realized that the crisis had been resolved in the best possible way. "Supreme Coordinator, we are honored to have been able to assist. This is exactly why Earth builds ships like the Prometheus, not to conquer or intimidate, but to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Dr. Kellix, still processing the incredible display of human technology and courage, made an observation that would shape galactic politics for generations to come. We have been thinking about this all wrong. The humans didn't bring their most powerful warship to threaten us. They brought it to protect us. They are not predators seeking prey. They are guardians seeking those worthy of protection. The formal ceremony admitting Earth to the Galactic Confederation took place 1 week later aboard the Prometheus herself. Representatives from all 43 member species gathered in the ship's main hangar, which had been converted into a diplomatic assembly hall. Supreme Coordinator Vesh presented Captain Vasquez with the Charter of Galactic Citizenship, officially welcoming humanity into the greatest alliance of civilized species in the galaxy. But more importantly, the Confederation Council voted unanimously to establish Earth as the new headquarters for galactic security operations. The humans, with their advanced military technology and proven commitment to protecting peaceful civilizations, would serve as the guardians of galactic peace. The Prometheus would be the first of many human vessels to patrol the spaceways, ensuring that the Devari hegemony and other rogue states could never again threaten innocent worlds. As Captain Vasquez looked out at the assembled alien delegates, she thought about Admiral Reynolds' words during their final briefing. The Admiral had been right about the importance of first impressions, but she had been even more right about the importance of character. The galaxy had tested humanity's intentions and found them worthy of trust and respect. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun, not through conquest or colonization, but through service and protection. Earth's children would spread among the stars as guardians and friends, carrying the values of their homeworld to civilizations that had never dreamed such protectors could exist. The Prometheus and her crew had opened a door that could never be closed, leading humanity into a future among the stars where they would be remembered not as conquerors, but as the species that chose to use their strength to defend the weak and protect the innocent. The galaxy was no longer the same, and it was better for the change.